Madam Chair, good morning, Lead Council, members of the press, members of the public. Once again, we welcome you to this Commission of Inquiry for continuation of our proceedings with witness number 1. Madam Chair, over to you.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Good morning to everyone. May I now have Alaji Sila to lead us in Muslim prayers, and after that we will have Commissioner Remy Joyner to lead us in the Christian prayers. Thank you.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين الله لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم لا تأخذه سنة ولا نوم له ما في السماوات وما في الأرض من ذا الذي يشفع عنده إلا بإذنه يعلم ما بين أيديهم وما خلفهم ولا يأتون بشيء من علمه إلا بما شاء وسع كرسي السماوات والأرض ولا يعوض حفظهما ولا العلي العظيم لا إله إلا الله محمد رسول الله لا إله إلا الله محمد رسول الله لا إله إلا الله محمد رسول الله فالله خير حفظا وهو الرحمن الرحيم فالله خير حفظا وهو الرحمن الرحيم نصر من الله وفتح قريب وبشر المؤمنين نصر من الله وفتح قريب وبشر المؤمنين نصر من الله وفتح قريب وبشر المؤمنين سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون والسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين.
Of the Son and of the Holy Ghost. Amen. May God be with us at every step we take. May God guide us in each decision we make. May God help us when life gets rough. May God bless us with more than enough. May God bless us with the wisdom of Solomon. May God protect us when we fall. May God hear us when we call. May God soothe our heart when we do not understand. All this we ask through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
Thank you, fellow commissioners, for the prayers. May we get the secretary to remind the witness that he is on oath, and we will hand over to counsel to proceed on her examination. Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Witness. Welcome back to this Commission of Inquiries. Our proceedings continue. It's just to remind you that you are still on the oath. Over to you, Chair.
Can counsel proceed if you are set?
Yes, Madam Chair. Good morning, Chairperson, Commissioners. Mr. Sanyang.
Yes, good morning.
Mr. Sanyang, yesterday we started talking about the allowances and salaries that are paid to council members as well as council staff.
Yes.
Now, at your ministry, you maintain files for staff salaries and staff allowances for area councils.
Yes.
Is that correct? Let me show you this area council staff salaries file. Please identify the file.
File is named Area Council Staff Salaries with reference number LM9/209/01.
And it is your ministry's file.
Exactly.
Chairperson, I apply to tender the file that has been identified by the witness.
Very well, Counsel. The area council's staff salaries file with file number LM 9/209/01 is hereby admitted in evidence and marked as LCG 16.
As the commission pleases. Mr. Sanyang, please refer to folio 90 of that file.
Yes.
Can you identify that document, please?
Approved. There is a letter from the ministry addressed to all the councils, dated 18th July 2019. Approved salaries and allowances, increments for CEOs,
And
with folio number 90.
could you also refer to folio 89? And identify that document.
That is approval salaries and allowances, increments for 6 LGAs, dated 16 July 2019, addressed to all the councils with folio 89.
So one of folio 89 is approved salaries and allowances for 6 LGAs, and 90 is for the CEOs. Is that right?
Exactly.
Okay. And in respect of folio 89, you have only included 6 of the local government authorities.
Exactly.
Why is that?
Yes, because the other councils like Banyun and KMC, their CEOs' salaries have already gone beyond the limit as per the level of the other CEOs. So if we have to regularize, we only adjust the allowances, the required allowance as per the Act. That's what we brought in to adjust their allowances. There were some allowances which were not paid to CEOs. So we just, as per the requirement of the Act, we just bring all those allowances that is an entitlement of a CEO to be inputted. But then the Banjul and KMC, their basic is even way beyond that. So that one, if we want to regularize means we have to bring them down, which is not the best practice. So that's why we omit them together with their chairpersons, mayors, so that we look into that separately.
Very well. From this document, the chairman's basic salary is $10,000.
Yes.
And responsibility allowance is $6,000.
Yes.
Telephone allowance, $2,000.
Yes.
The chairman does not receive car, transport, or trekking allowance.
Yes.
And then no region or ward allowance.
Yes.
And then the gross pay is $18,000.
Yes.
The deputy chairman's gross pay is $9,500.
Yes, exactly.
The councillors receive a basic salary of $4,000.
Yes.
No responsibility or telephone allowances.
Yes.
Car, transport, trekking allowances is $1,500.
Yes.
And region or ward allowances is $1,000.
Yes.
So the councillor's gross pay is $6,500.
Yes.
The CEOs receive a basic salary of $13,500.
Yes.
Responsibility allowance of $3,000.
Exactly.
Telephone allowance $1,000.
Yes.
No car, transport, trekking allowance. No region, ward allowance. And the gross pay of $17,500.
Exactly.
Then there are further allowances in respect of officers that have bachelor's degrees and master's degrees, depending on their grades.
Exactly.
The highest allowance for this is $3,122.53 bututs.
Yes.
So is this the take home for these officials that have been listed?
Yeah, this is the basic salary with the allowances as per the cadre they occupied. Because the reason why this has been applied is because some of the allowances we found been implemented were not as per the act, and some of them they were not even given. So we went through what is obtained and then bring all those allowances out to say if you are at the position of a CEO, this is what the act provides for your basic salary, and these are the allowances that you are entitled to. Because you are given a car, you don't are entitled to a car allowance. We have seen instances where CEOs have car and they are given car allowance as well. So these are the things that we clean up and then bring in the actual allowances as per the act.
Yes, but what I wanted to know was, is this the actual amount that
Yes,
they
this
go
is-
home with every month?
This is the, yeah, that's the actual amount, but then most of them have got some degrees which have added their allowances. But
Yes,
then this is, apart from that, this is the basic.
Very well. Let me show you the area council staff allowance file. Please identify that file.
Is area council staff allowance.
And the reference.
Reference LM9 194 stroke 194 stroke 01 part 2.
Thank you. Chairperson, I apply to tender the file that has been identified by the witness.
Very well, Council. The area council staff allowances file with file number LM 9/194/01 part 2 is hereby admitted in evidence and marked LCG 17.
As the commission pleases. Mr. Sanyang, please refer to folio 90 of the file.
90.
Yes, 90. Thank you.
Yes.
Kindly identify the document.
It's a letter from Brikama Area Council addressed to the Permanent Secretary requesting for approval on payment on allowance to councillors. Dated 28 January 2020, reference BAC stroke 076 stroke A stroke B.
Thank you. And in that letter, Brikama Area Council was requesting $4,000 transport refund to its councillors to attend council committee meetings.
Exactly.
And that request was approved, I believe.
If you look at the minutes, I minuted to the responsible officer. I said, please verify if this is in line with the act.
Very well. And is the transport allowance that had previously been allocated to councillors from the document that you had read, we had gone through earlier, does that not cover their transport allowances to go to meetings?
It depends. Councils can request based on facts on the ground whether the transport allowance is sufficient or not, or any other allowance is sufficient or not. And once they find out that this is not sufficient, they can seek for minister's approval for such requests. So the minister will look into it and then align with the act. And if it is in line, then it will be approved.
Mr. Kamara, can I please borrow the file? No, 93. Please refer to folio 93, which I believe came after the request for transport allowance, but within the same period.
Yes.
Now, folio 93 is requesting or is talking about the fact that they cannot have actual physical meetings due to COVID, and that there would be virtual meetings.
Yes.
So do you know whether the transport allowance for 4,000 was actually approved? Could you check the file to confirm whether it was approved or not?
The 4,000.
Yes.
I believe it must have been approved.
It was approved.
Yes,
Now, in line with the fact that they could not have physical meetings.
Yes.
How does the transport allowance increment align with that?
Yes, the transport allowance increment is coming at the early stage. This was, I think, 2019. That is, I don't.
No, this particular 4,001 was in 2020. I believe 2
Yes.
months before.
Yeah, up to 2020 early stage, people were still having meetings. It was not all closed. COVID came at the later end of 2019, 2020, and then lockdown came, some parts. But then during the COVID period, approval of allowance does not necessarily mean that when you don't sit, you have to be paid. So it is when the approval is given and the councillors cannot meet. This, if it is monthly, they have to be paid. Just like myself, if I am given a transport allowance and I did not go to work, I am on leave, I'm still paid the transport allowance. So these are entitlements given to people, you know, and even when those actual activities are not carried out, when it is monthly, they have to be paid because sometimes they will spend more than what you approve, but sometimes also they will spend less than what you approve. So it is an entitlement. Once it's approved, it has to be honored.
Thank you. Do councillors get vehicles as part of their packages?
Vehicle, you mean?
Yes.
No.
So please refer to folio 94. And
Yes.
identify the document, please.
This is an internal memo to the CEO. It doesn't got a reference. We were copied in it. That is 6th July 2020.
And it is a complaint, essentially, that the vice chairman, one Ismaila Jallo, who doubles as ward councillor for Suba ward, is receiving monthly transport allowance while he's also been allocated an official vehicle.
Yes.
That's why I'm asking whether they get official vehicles.
Not this one is both a vice chairperson and also a ward councillor. So as a vice chairman, if they have enough vehicle, they will allocate a vehicle, official vehicle, to a vice chairman. Like the chairperson is allocated a vehicle. Then the vice chairman will also be facilitated with transportation, and then the transport allowance will be withdrawn. But this was an internal complaint within the council itself. They are bringing it to the attention of their management. But they copied us to be aware of it in case it escalates to our level.
Okay, thank you very much. Going back to, just briefly, the Local Government Service Commission. Hold on, sorry. It is the minister who determines the allowances paid to the Local Government Service Commission.
Exactly.
Now, how do you, or how does the ministry determine what is sufficient as allowances for the commissioners?
We look at the best practice, what obtains in other commissions, similar commissions, or bodies of similar powers or responsibilities, and we also adjust them or whatever, peg it to those bodies.
And do you know what body or commission was used as a comparison for this Local Government Service Commission?
Yeah, we have an internal body like the Land Commission, we have the Planning Board, we have the planning authorities. We have those ones existing with us. We have the NGO Affairs Board. So these are structures under us which have similar function as the Local Government Service Commission.
So you've mentioned the Land Commission. How often do they sit?
Land Commission, they were sitting very often at one time when they were active. At the moment, their term expired. and we are working on constituting a new commission. The problem is the Act provides for a judge of a superior court to be a chairperson, and we are finding it difficult to get these, and that is a provision of an Act. We cannot just put anybody there as the chairperson. So this has proven a bit challenging. But we are working with judiciary to see how we can overcome that hurdle to have a functional land commission as soon as possible.
Well, but when they did sit, can you give us an idea of how many times in a quarter or in a month they sat?
There was a time they were sitting every week because they were receiving complaints. People were submitting complaints to them, and they were sitting almost on a weekly basis. I remember that.
Now, you had indicated that the Local Government Service Commission sits monthly or weekly in your previous testimony, is that right?
Yeah, I see sometimes they sit weekly. Yeah.
Now, considering that they are responsible for all staff matters of the 8 local government area councils, are you of the view, well, I would assume that you're of the view because that's the stipulated allowances that were set down for them, but do you not think, bearing in mind their responsibilities, that the allowances that have been allocated to them are not suitable? Not suitable. Let me just read out what the allowances are. So the chairperson is allocated an allowance of $15,000 per month. And all the commissioners, including the vice chairperson, is allocated $10,000 per month. The secretary is allocated $5,000 per month.
Yes.
And this is the commission responsible for all staff matters of the 8 area councils.
Exactly.
Do you think this is sufficient for their duties?
Yes. I think sufficient is relative here because all of us will say our salaries are not sufficient. Based on our need. But then based on what is the best practice within the ministry, we feel that we should give them. However, we've also management and the council have not been pulling well. And then this is affecting work. Now you have to look for a possible solution. And this is how it has been recommended to the commission to look for a possibility of bringing somebody to Banjul and then letting that woman who has got the potential to move to another council where she could perform her duties. That was the reason, background.
Thank you. Can I please get the file? You have an area council complaints and petitions file at your ministry.
Yes.
Let me show you the complaints and petitions file. Is that the file from your ministry?
Yes.
Could you please identify it?
The file is named Area Council Complaint and Petition. With file reference LM39, sorry, LM9/41/01.
Chairperson, I applied to tender the file that has been identified by the witness.
Very well, Counsel. The Area Council Complaints and Petition file with file number LM 9/41/01 is hereby admitted in evidence and marked LCG 19.
As the Commission pleases. Mr. Sanyang, this is the file where you keep general petitions and complaints made to your office, is that correct?
Yes.
Kindly refer to folio 150. 150.
Very well. Yes.
Can you identify the document, please?
It's a letter from Janjambure Area Council, dated 27 January 2023, reference number JAC/023/ADM/JAC/39.
Thank you. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Titled Removal of the Vice Chairperson of Janjambure Area Council.
So in this document, you're being informed that the Janjambure Area Council has removed their vice chairman, and they also stated that they have appointed a new vice chairman.
Yes.
The document was minuted to the DLG that let's discuss urgently.
Yes.
Could you please tell us what transpired after you received that letter?
This is for our information. It's not for our action. Council within themselves, councillors, when they sit, they appoint the vice chairperson. And if there is an issue around the chairman, they can remove the vice chairman based on their resolution or their voting, and then appoint a new one and notify us accordingly. This particular instance is when I think it was a long-standing issue when the chairman of the council was sick and was not going to the office. And the vice chairman brought this to the attention of the office, that the chairman has not been coming to the office. And then we advised him that as per the act, they should act, not the ministry. The act indicated that if the chairman is not fit, they should take the action by either deposing him, going through the due process. The due process would include, after their action, we will send this request to the office of the, I think the Attorney General, for them to assess whether what has been alleged is what obtains. And that's part of the process. But then the vice chairman only stopped at a resolution from the council to depose, and he wants to assume office. And we advise that we cannot just give you that power because it doesn't lie with us. So that was going on and on until the chairman resumed office back. And when he resumed office, he called up a council meeting, and during that council meeting, they decided to remove the vice chairman. And then they notify us after, and that is the power. For vice chairman, it doesn't need to go further. But for the chairman, it needs to go further for verification. But the vice chairman, they can remove him with the majority vote, given their reason, and they can now appoint another person as the vice chairman and copy the relevant stakeholders accordingly.
Please refer to folio 144.
Yes.
Identify the document, please.
The document is from Janjambure Area Council to the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Lands. Ministry intervention in need in this situation. And the reference is O/A/JAC/11/1/2023, dated 11th January 2023.
Thank you. Now, in that document, they're stating that the chairman of the Janjambure Area Council was removed, and that the resolution was approved by your ministry on the 4th of April 2022. Is that correct?
That's why I said the resolution, we don't approve resolutions. Resolutions are made at the council and approved at the council. They are sent to us for our information that they have taken a resolution, and we acknowledge receipt of their resolution. And then, based on the fact that the chairman have not been coming to the office and there is a vacuum, based on that, on administrative means, the vice chairman was asked to oversee, whilst the due process follows. That was our role for administrative purpose, to allow the office to be functional. We asked the vice chairman to oversee, whilst they continue from where they stopped the resolution to go through the next process to have the chairman removed officially.
So you're saying you didn't actually approve the resolution, that
No.
as per what they're saying in the letter?
Yes, resolution is not our responsibility to approve.
Okay. So you have said that you asked them to have the vice chairman oversee pending the completion of the process of removal of the chairman.
Exactly.
So can you tell us what happened in respect of the completion of the process to remove the chairman?
The vice chairman refused to activate that process. In fact, that is what gave the chairman, when he came back, to make a counter coup and remove him.
When you say the vice chairman refused to activate that process, what exactly do you mean?
He was supposed to forward the process to us for us to send it to the I think the judiciary for a review, and then the review of whatever allegation has been leveled, whether that is in line with the conditions for the removal, and also to confirm if it is maybe if the person has instability of mind or is sick, whether there is a medical paper proving that he cannot perform, that's why it's been removed. All those has to be assessed by forming a committee at that level. Once those are confirmed, then it will be sent back to them to say that they have confirmed that what has been alleged is right, they can proceed, and then that removal will become official.
So did they send you the resolution for the removal of the chairperson and the vice chairperson?
No,
did they send it to your ministry?
Yeah, they inform us about their resolution.
Now, are you conversant with the provisions as to removal of chairperson and councillors under the Local Government Act?
Yes, to an extent, yes.
Okay. So, with the permission of the Commission, I'll just read the provision, and it's section 20. Now, section 20 says, removal of chairperson, etc., from office. Subject to subsection 2, a chairperson, deputy chairperson, or other member of a council may be removed from office by a resolution supported by 2/3 of all the members of the council on any of the following grounds: A, abuse of office; B, corruption; C, misconduct; or D, such physical or mental incapacity as would render him or her incapable of discharging the duties of the office. For the purpose of removing the chairperson, deputy chairperson, or other member of a council under subsection 1 of this section, a notice in writing signed by not less than 2/3 of all members of the council shall be submitted to the deputy chairperson in the case of the removal of a chairperson, and to the chairperson in the case of the removal of a deputy chairperson or any other member of the council, stating that they intend to pass a resolution to remove the chairperson, deputy chairperson, or other member of the council, as the case may be, on the grounds set out in subsection 1. And it should set out, in the case of removal under subsection 1, other than paragraph D, the particulars of the charge supported by necessary documents where applicable, on which it is claimed that the conduct of the chairperson, deputy chairperson, or other member of the council, as the case may be investigated for the purpose of removal. And the chairperson or deputy chairperson shall, within 24 hours after receipt of the notice, cause a copy of the notice to be transmitted to the minister. Now, you have confirmed that they sent you the resolution, and there's a letter forwarding the resolution, I believe, informing you of their decision to remove the chairperson in one case and the deputy chairperson, right?
Exactly.
Okay, so subsection 4 of section 20 says, the minister shall, on receiving the notice under subsection 3, or following any finding of irregularity that concerns any action of or omission by the chairperson, deputy chairperson, or other member of the council, by a commission of inquiry instituted under section 151 of this act, A, suspend the chairperson, deputy chairperson, or other member of the council concerned, in which case the deputy chairperson shall act as chairperson, and a councillor appointed by the members of the council from among the elected councillors shall act as deputy chairperson. B, shall investigate the allegations contained in the notice. And C, report its findings to the president, stating whether or not there is a case for the removal of the chairperson, deputy chairperson, or other member of the council involved. Now, that provision states what your ministry's duty is when such a complaint, or rather such a notice and resolution, has been forwarded to your office.
Yes.
So did you conduct an investigation based on those resolutions?
No, the resolution, after the resolution is passed, the council should give a notice. Their intention after they've agreed on the resolution. And when this is passed to the ministry officially, then the ministry will follow the due process.
Are you saying that they did not notify you of the fact that they intended to pass a resolution, or of the fact that they passed a resolution to that effect?
Yeah, the resolution we were notified.
You were notified?
Yes.
So you're saying that unless they send you a notice,
As per the,
so what form is this notice supposed to take?
as per the act, it indicates that, if I could remember well, after the resolution, the councillors or the vice chairman is, in case of the chairman, should put up a notice that should be acted on by the council and then sent to the ministry.
You will agree that notice simply means that you need to be notified of whatever it is that is required to be transmitted to you.
Yeah, that's also a notice.
Yes, so they have notified you of
Yes.
the resolution. Now, has your ministry taken any steps following the notification to look into the contents of the resolutions?
Not beyond the ministry.
Now, subsection 5 of section 20 reads, the chairperson, deputy chairperson, or other member of the council who is to be removed from office may, within 30 days of his or her suspension from office, under subsection 4, make representations to the president. 6 goes on. If the president determines that there is a prima facie case for the removal of the chairperson, deputy chairperson, or other person or other member of the council, as the case may be, under subsection 1, other than under paragraph D, the chairperson, deputy chairperson, or other member of the council, as the case may be, shall cease to hold office. Now, this provision is making it clear that it is the president, upon a finding of a prima facie case, following the ministry's intervention after being served with the resolution. If the president finds that there's a prima facie case for the removal of the chairperson, then he will remove the chairperson or the deputy chairperson or councillor, as the case may be.
Yes, as per what you read there.
So unless the ministry actually follows through when they've been notified of the resolution and conducts an investigation in accordance with the act and makes a report to the president cannot remove the chairperson, deputy chairperson, or other councillor, as the case may be.
Yes.
So even though the council has the power to make the resolution, unless the president removes the person, he is not removed from office.
Exactly.
So do you see where the lapse in your ministry's taking action may have consequences on the council's resolution?
Yes.
Thank you. Now, folio 144, I believe. But more generally, the Janjanbureh Area Council sought to remove their chairperson on the grounds of mental or physical incapacity.
Yes.
Now, was that ever looked into?
Yeah, for the mental incapacity of a person, it also requires a process.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot recall the actual process, but then there are steps that needs to be followed to make sure that that is confirmed, that the person is not able to perform his or her duty based on whatever mental incapacitation that he has.
Right. Let me assist you. And with the Commission's permission, I'll read Section 20, subsection 8 of the Local Government Act. And it says, in the case of removal under paragraph D is such physical or mental incapacity as would render him or her incapable of discharging the duties of the office. So, in the case of removal under that section, the minister, which is your minister, shall, within 7 days after the receipt of the notice transmitted under subsection 3, and in consultation with the Director of Medical Services, constitute a medical board comprising 3 qualified medical specialists to examine the chairperson, deputy chairperson, or other member of the council, as the case may be, in respect of the alleged incapacity, and report its findings to the council. The medical board shall examine the chairperson, deputy chairperson, or other member of the council, as the case may be, within 14 days after it is constituted. The chairperson, deputy chairperson, or other member of the council, as the case may be, shall submit himself or herself to the medical board for examination on a day and time determined by the board. The chairperson, deputy chairperson, or other member of the council, as the case may be, shall cease to hold office if the medical board, A, determines that the chairperson, deputy chairperson, or other member of the council, as the case may be, is by reason of physical or mental incapacity unable to perform the functions of his or her office, or B, reports that the chairperson, deputy chairperson, or other member of the council, as the case may be, has failed or refused to submit himself or herself to the medical board for examination. Now, you have stated that no action was taken after receiving the resolution.
Exactly.
And no medical board was constituted.
Exactly.
Now, 12 says, and I read with the permission of the Commission, failure by the chairperson or deputy chairperson to convene a meeting of the council within 14 days of the receipt of the medical board, or by the council to move the resolution for the removal of the chairperson, deputy chairperson, or other member of the council, as the case may be, within 14 days after the receipt of such report, shall render the resolution time-barred, provided that where the chairperson or deputy chairperson fails to convene a meeting of the council, a meeting may be convened by 2/3 majority of the members of the council. Now, in as much as the council has the powers to remove or to pass a resolution to remove the chairperson, deputy chairperson, or other council member, this power is not given effect until your ministry actually takes the steps as provided for in the Act.
Exactly.
And you also appreciate the fact that where your ministry has not taken steps as provided for in the Act, it leaves the councils in a state of chaos and confusion, and that is why you have the issues that are prevailing with, as you call it, a coup d'etat by the vice chair and the chair.
Exactly.
Thank you. I will now refer you to my colleague who has some questions for you.
Okay.
Sorry, unless the commissioners have questions first.
May I just ask for the PS to clarify for me? Thank you so much, PS, for the evidence. Can you kindly clarify the issue of car allowance? You've mentioned in your evidence that there are some instances where in the councils they were allocated car and still paid car allowance. Can you expatiate on that? And if possible, can you tell this commission in which of the councils did you find this thing happening? Thank you.
Yes, this was particularly at Brikama, where the deputy chairperson was actually given an official car by the council. at the same time, they were paying him car allowance. So when this was brought to our attention, we asked them to either choose to leave the car with him, which is a privilege, but then he has to, if he's accorded that privilege, he has to forgo the car allowance, the car allowance that is been given to him in monetary terms. Or otherwise, he can forgo the privilege and takes the right, that is the car allowance. You cannot have both.
So in this case at Brikama, was the issue resolved?
Yes.
Is there any evidence to that effect? Was there any correspondences to that effect?
No, but then the council notified us that it has acted on the advice.
Was that in writing or just verbal information?
It was verbal, but also in the subsequent budget process, we've seen that this was not applied in the budget.
Thank you. You have also talked about the issue of some councils setting up their own emoluments, that is to say, determining their allowances.
Yes.
You were able to work on only 6 councils in which, pursuant to the Act, you were able to regularize their allowances and you were able to harmonize their salaries. Now, can you tell this commission which of the remaining councils decide to take the law in their own hands and do what they want to do by themselves?
Yes, this increment happens in the Banjul City Council and the Kanifing Municipal Council. These 2 councils have got already their councillors or deputy mayor or the mayor way above the threshold. And at the time we said we need to get a proper professional advice in dealing with this, because this is the situation we found in place. We try to look into the files to see whether there was any letter from the ministry instructing the council to that effect. As far as our searches are concerned, some points there were some letters from the ministry where the councils will apply. We also have to look at the background, that at some point in the history of this regularization of salaries or according salaries or allowances to these staff, the ministry was playing a central role in the sense that the service commission was not constituted, and in default, the ministry was serving that role, and then as such, certain approvals were given at that level. So we look at this and then said we will need a proper study on that of Banjul and KM. But from 2017, when the new government came into being, we advised all councils that they have to now refer all those such issues to the Local Government Service Commission for redress. So any of that has happened after that period, then that will be seen as a deliberate act. But then some of them were actually the ministry approving certain allowances. At the time they were playing supposedly the role of a service commission, because there was no service commission at the time.
Yeah, Mr. Sanyang, you will agree with me that the Act is very specific and is very clear as to who should do what with respect to granting or defining who should get what. And I do think that the coming of the Commission found the provisions of the law already existing. Now, my question is, why did the ministry not resort to the law to regularize any anomaly that you might have found in both BCC and KMC?
Yes, that's what I'm referring to. This will require if we have to standardize, we require reduction of pay, which by the Labor Act we cannot do. So we have to now resort to a proper study into that aspect. But any additional, that is where the problem comes in. But then what we found existing, that they have been receiving at that time, which is not in accordance with the provisions, is what we were trying to look at. But then from there, going upwards, we advise that it has to be referred to the relevant body to deal with.
Can you avail us the relevant provisions of the Labor Act, which you referred to? We would like you to avail us that those provisions.
Okay.
Yes, thank you. Commissioner Sukai Seka Sanyang wants to ask 5 questions. You can go ahead. Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Sanyang.
Morning.
My question is, what do you think your ministry should do towards the full implementation of the Act, the policies, and the strategies vis-a-vis to the various councils?
The ministry has an oversight function, is to enforce the powers under the Act given to the ministry on the activities of the councils. So the ministry is to enforce the powers given to the ministry under the Act and by guiding the councils, yes. It's the enforcement of the powers.
Thank you.
Commissioner Joyner wants to ask questions, please.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. It is interesting to note that the ministry is the enforcement agency of the Act. We have seen from your deliberations, it seems as if enforcement was a problem. Why do you think enforcement was a problem for your ministry to enforce certain requirements of the Act?
Yes, enforcement to an extent I'll agree has been a challenge. This is because sometimes these laws to be enforced have some people see them as a political witch hunt. But then that is not an excuse for enforcing a law. The ministry, under the provisions of powers given to it, should make sure they are enforced to the latter. That is just the case, and that should be the case.
So, in other words, the ministry should or can be blamed for non-enforcement of certain provisions of the Act.
Yeah, definitely. At some point, the ministry does not enforce as required. That's true.
So, in essence, you are saying you have a mouth which is toothless.
No. It doesn't mean that.
Okay. What does it mean?
It might not be biting at all the time, but it has its powers that it enforces.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other? Any other? You can proceed, Council.
Hello? Yes, at some point I thought we would be going for a tea break, but it seems as if there's much energy in the room today. Very well, that's fine, that's all right. So, Honorable PS, we will now discuss perhaps some issues raised by the various audit reports prepared by the Auditor General. To be more specific, we will deal briefly with the issues raised by the audit report in relation to Kerewan Area Council, and also BCC, and also Brikama Area Council, just to have a general overview of some of the problems that have been highlighted, and then discuss them in detail as to the role your ministry is playing in relation to addressing those issues. So we start with the audit report dated the 28th April 2021 for Kerewan Area Council for the years ended 31st December 2018 and 2019. So if you turn to page, if I refer you to page 14, which I will read for you, since you don't have the document, the auditor highlighted some key findings, one of which is on page 14, that examination of sample expenditure vouchers against the cash book reveals salary preparation without payment vouchers. The salaries are paid using the salary schedule only. And the implication that the auditor highlighted is that payments made without using or raising payment vouchers can lead to unauthorized payments being processed without being detected. And so this, of course, you will agree, it is a recipe for fraud. What is your reaction to that?
Yes, all these reports and queries are meant for the council executive. One, the CEO as an administrative head to address, and the oversight body as the council itself, headed by either the mayor or the chairperson, should make sure that these audit reports, findings on their council are taken care of. However, in the absence of all these bodies failing to act, the ministry should now act by bringing it first to their attention, and if need be, they should bring in other bodies like police investigation or any other body to help address the issue. But the primary duty bearer of the audit report is the CEO and the council as a body.
Yes, I mean, these findings, the reason why we are asking you these questions is in relation to your inspection role, or better still, your supervisory role as a ministry, since you've highlighted over and over again that you perform an oversight function over these area councils. Is that not correct?
Yes.
And then so in 4 months of those area oversight functions, you of course have the right to enter into area council premises, demand account books, record books, and so on and so forth to be able to perform your duties very well.
Exactly.
Yes, and so the audit report will of course come in handy in trying to do a thorough job in relation to pointing out some of these malpractices that may be happening on a daily basis or so in these area councils.
Yes.
Yeah, very well. So now we refer to page 17 of the same audit report, wherein the auditor highlighted that the following tables, which is already drawn on the document, relates to sample market tickets amounting to $318,734, which were issued to collectors but could not be traced in their individual cash books.
Exactly.
Yes. So were you aware of these findings at any time?
After it is reported by the auditors.
Very well. So
yes.
What was your reaction as an oversight institution?
As I said, these are operational matters. Operational, we do conduct inspection on the council, see how they are, the staff, considering the manpower, the procurement process, and some of the day-to-day activities. But we cannot detect all this. That's the reason why we have the national audit, auditing the councils, to come up with deeper finding on operations. Our role is to look at strengthening the system, helping the system to function. But then the audit report or the audit exercise will go deeper to look into this. And once they are detected, they are brought to the attention of the CEO that your tickets are maybe seen to be maybe fraudulent in terms of how people use them. So it's now the CEO to look into this matter as the first contact person, to look into this matter to save those actions. If the CEO feels it is the council's responsibility to make sure that these findings which have been brought to them is being acted on. It is only after those failures that the ministry will look into some of these things. But we have to make sure that we give those structures the opportunity, because they are the actors of these particular actions, and they can, we believe they should be able to address these problems at their level. However, it doesn't stop us from intervening if there is a need.
Now, I agree with you entirely on with respect to the process you have highlighted as to giving the chance to the CEO or the council to address these issues. Now, we will come to that when perhaps they are before us as well to give evidence as to some of these issues. But now, as an oversight function, we want to know, in performance of your inspection role, whether you have addressed these issues, whether you know whether they have been addressed by the councils. The result as of now is they have been raised validly by the auditor.
Yeah, I quite remember that I instructed the governance unit to extract all the findings of all the councils and send it to the CEO, reminding them of the findings that has been made in the audit reports, so that they can act on it. I quite remember that.
Do you know whether that was done by the Director of Governance?
I believe so. I believe so. I can confirm that.
Yes, if you were asked to provide a copy of your instruction to the Director of Governance, and as well whether any administrative position has been taken, will you be able to do that?
Yes.
Very well. We will request those correspondences. Again, just to conclude on the same audit report in relation to Kerewan, I will also as well highlight an issue raised by the auditor. One of the issues is payment without having the right people to sign off those payments.
Come again?
You have payments being done without having the right authority to sign off those payments. Okay. So you can't trace as to the reason for those payments or the accounting records in relation to those payments as well. And the auditor has highlighted that it's a very high risk, which perhaps as well is a recipe for fraud, is my language.
Come again?
Which is a recipe for fraud when you have payments being made to individuals and there are no records to show for it, even signatures to indicate those payments. Right. Are you aware of this?
Yeah, as per the audit, yes.
Now, we move to BCC. In fact, some of these issues that are being raised before you today, you realize, you'll agree with me, there are much more similar issues across the board.
Exactly.
For the most part of it.
Most, yeah.
So with respect to BCC, I will turn to page 17. It is the audit report dated the 26th of October 2022 for the period 1st January 2020 to 31st December 2021. Now I will turn to page 17. If you look at page 17, you will see in 2019, with respect to the office of the chairman, the salary was increased from 60,000 to 2020 to $121,849.96 per total. Were you aware of such these increments, since there are rules or procedures surrounding increment of salaries?
No.
Did you not have records of this audit as at the time, because it has been prepared since 2022?
Are you talking of my prior being aware of it before it was done or after the audit?
No, at any time.
Yeah, after the audit, yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
So did you follow up as to see whether it followed the regulation in relation to increment of salaries?
Whether the regulation?
Did you follow up to see whether it has followed the guidelines or the regulation or any law laid down as to how salaries can be increased?
Yeah, that's what I said. These things were extracted and then they were flagged to the various councils. I think it must have fallen within that period.
Yes. So basically, since they were also flagged and were sent to the various councils for comments, did you receive any comments or any explanations to that effect?
No.
Very well. Again, we will now address, go to page 20 of the Brikama Area Council. Or let's say page 31. So the auditor has also clearly outlined that during the process of auditing, there were unpresented deposit slips, in fact, in various instances. I'm not sure whether you are aware of those instances. Yes, so what can you tell us about that?
Yeah, equally, as I said, about this at our supervisory level, we will look into this. But then the primary jury bearer is the CEO to make sure that to contain and then protect his revenue, these issues are immediately addressed. And the council, as a body, oversighting body of the administration, should also make sure that these issues are immediately addressed, because they are serious fraud that will affect their revenue and their operations.
That's true, but this is since 2022.
And that's what I'm saying. We should ask them, why didn't they act?
Did you do that?
I said, that is what we should find out. As I said earlier on, the 2022 audit report, I don't know when was it received, but it was not received immediately 2022. These audit reports normally come a year after. I don't know whether it was recently received. It was the 2022 audit or it was received in 2022.
I'm not sure when it was received, but it is dated to 26th of October 2022. I will perhaps believe that it has been received around 2022.
Yeah, that might be the latest audit reports that we received last year, end of last year, which the unit is working with the ad hoc committee to see to address this. And when the commission came into force, they requested for these documents. So some of it, Banjul City Council for one, the audit report, part of the audit report, and the complaints made by about, I think, 7 councillors were forwarded again to the national audit for a review. This was done within the same period for them to review, to look at, to substantiate, where we received not long ago that some of those complaints made by those councillors have been contained in the audit report. These were this was just a recent engagement, and this one must have been received at the office very recently.
Very well. So you can have a look at the audit report I made reference to in relation to Brikama Area Council.
Yes.
Can you identify that audit report?
This is an audit report. I don't know whether it was directly delivered to you or through our office, because I would have seen my stamp on it, but I have not seen that on this.
Very well. Can we have it back? Now, let's discuss some of the issues raised by the auditor with respect to BCC for the year ended 31st December 2019 and 2020. I would just highlight some very fundamental issues raised by the auditor. First, in page 7 of the report itself. So, first, the auditor highlighted as well that there were unpresented GTRs for audit inspection, basically. And so, this generally, the auditor highlighted will pose a serious high risk of either fraud itself, and so that is a concern. I'm not sure whether you are aware of that.
Yes.
So, do you know whether the audit report in relation to Brikama BCC, the year 2019 and 2020, was ever reacted upon by your office?
Yeah, I think should be part of the 2019 period was the part when we asked for the extraction of all the queries and then forwarding of those queries to the councils. That was around the period.
How about the issue of fraud, suspected fraud being also highlighted by the auditor?
Yes.
What can you tell us about the information you had in relation to the issues of suspected fraud?
Yes, I might not recall the exact figure, but then suspected frauds in terms of people paying and underlodging the amount to the accounts, and also people understating the amount on the receipts. These are common occurrence at the councils, which tantamount to fraud.
Yes. So, in your role as an inspector, so since these informations came to your knowledge, what have you done about it?
Yes. The last inspection done by the inspectorate unit, they were asked to look at some of these findings and to find out whether the councils have actually acted on some of them. So they were as part of their inspection, they were also to see it in terms of compliance to the audit queries.
All right. So you will agree that the issue of suspected fraud is a very serious issue.
Exactly.
Were there any possible inquiries have been set up in relation to that?
Not by the ministry.
How about police reports?
No, not by the ministry.
Any possible future decisions being discussed at this level?
Yes. As per when we set up the ministerial committee, commission, back in 2021, we wanted all these audit reports to be looked at by the investigators, and then recommendations can be made for possible police action. But when the commission did not go through, and then we were trying to address some of the problems, we feel that some of these things will be competently dealt with at a commission level, where issues of this nature, especially fraud, will be looked into. However, it will be a non-action of the ministry, I will admit that, for not taking some of these further steps that you mentioned by submitting some of these serious frauds to the police, just as we did for the last audit query for Basse Area Council.
Yes, because just to dwell in further with respect to the suspected fraud, as highlighted by the auditor, it was noted that confirmed GTRs were with serial number 806101, 806550, recorded in the market CRBR, that these were not part of the books supplied by the Gambia Printing and Publishing Corporation. So we could not verify the source and the quantities of the books received therein. And as well, that there was a suppression of collections of $195,000 as well, all in these fraudulent schemes, I may call it. So my point is, you have an oversight function. These things are being raised. It has come to your notice. It doesn't have to come to your notice at the earliest possible stage, but it has come to your notice during the process of auditing, and you have possibly have had access to these documents. So this is 2020. We are in 2023. Don't you think if there are no actions taken to address these fundamental issues, this will cause grave financial mishap to these area councils and in effect as well to the country?
Exactly, I do agree.
Yes. So
even though, okay.
Please proceed.
Yeah, even though we, as a right resource, must have to look into this matter and then revert them to the relevant, for relevant redress. And this has not been done by this ministry until recently, when we started sending the audit reports for police investigation.
Now, the issue again of the aggregation of procurement. What do you know? What do you know about that?
Yeah, procurements are areas where easily people can hide behind cost of items, inflate cost, or not follow due process. This is the normal queries around procurement.
Were you aware of any incident that happened with respect to BCC?
BCC, I cannot recall, but then I remember the procurement officer did queried some procurement procedures in the, I think the EU project that the council was executing. And in fact, this resulted the council moving the procurement officer to become, I don't know whether rate collector, because he tried to uncover issues. They decided to deploy her. And we brought this to the Service Commission's attention, that the councils cannot do that. I will have to agree that most of these reports that you are talking about, the ministry, beyond the advisory and administrative role, we have not gone further. And I remember you've seen on the media where a mayor, to be specific, KMC, indicated that a telephone that was bought for him, costing 40,000, was actually said to be bought 80,000. And what was the remedial action he has taken is to transfer the staff. So, in as much as ministry have an oversight function, that we cannot throw that responsibility to the councils when the grudge gets tough, we need to act. But the body that we are helping also to act, I believe, when obvious issues are brought to their attention, they should act on them.
My point is, and again, you can disagree with this assertion, is that you are not only helping them to act, you are acting for the good of the country.
Exactly.
And so you have a responsibility, which you have highlighted throughout our citizens, that you have an inspection role.
Yes.
And that inspection role is not just to help a particular council to act, but
yes,
to make sure what needs to be done is actually done.
Exactly.
And so there are procedures in the event certain things are not being done. For example, you know what to do if you see some very serious financial misappropriation or something of a similar sort happening in these area councils, to properly inspect, investigate where necessary, possibly set up a commission where necessary, and make sure the issues are addressed.
Exactly.
And so if you fail to do that, I mean not you, but as an institution, it means you are opening up a floodgate where staff or employees or council in all areas can actually engage in mass fraud and misappropriation of funds without ever having any redress of any sort. Is that not correct?
Yes, to an extent, the ministry as a RAS check should be doing that, and we have not been doing that efficiently. I will agree to that.
Now, I will also bring to your attention as well, in relation to the aggregated issues that we were discussing with respect to procurement. The auditor also highlighted as well that the construction of an abattoir and 8 stores for the year under review, that the council paid about $1,767,812 bututs and $1,814,885.35 bututs for the construction of the abattoir and stores at the Banjul Albert Market and BCC Ice Plant respectively. That these payments were made to the Director of Planning as impressed and were fully retired. But then you will see that, in fact, the number one, that the implication that was highlighted was that the GPPA rules or act was not followed. Another thing as well is that this construction was never completed. In fact, the auditor attached pictures to show you how the state of the construction, money spent to the tune of more than almost 4 million or so, or thereabout, and there was no proper construction being done. Not even to even use the word completion, that it was not complete, would be an understatement. And I'm sure you are aware of this situation.
Yes, and if I may add to that, an impress of 1 million, I've never heard of that. Even in the government setup, an impress, I think doesn't go beyond 50,000 or maybe 100,000. But an impress of 1 million and above, this has been brought to our attention, and we call the Director of Planning to shed light on this. And also, in addition to this, these were supposed to be part of the things investigated for the previous commission. In addition to this allegation of an impress, we were told that the actual project was being sponsored by the EU project. And this impress was also claimed on top of that. So we actually highlighted this, and then we were to look into it with a view to make this available to the for the proceedings of the commission. But then we called the Director of Planning to check with him as to he said he costed this particular project, and the costing was supposed to complete the project. Why was the project not completed? And this was brought to the attention of the council.
Very well.
Sorry, can I come in here?
Absolutely.
I just want him to clarify. Mr. Sanyang, can you kindly clarify, is it your evidence that the council provided funding for that project, and then EU also provided funding on the same project?
That is what we were told, that the project was actually as part of a project being funded by EU. We could not confirm this, but that was what we were digging into. And also, these amounts were raised at the council as being for this project. I think, if I could remember well, the internal auditor raised some of these issues and brought to our attention that some of these things are problems. Only for the next month, we received a letter that the internal auditor that they have put in is in fact not competent, he is not qualified. He should now be dismissed. And they wrote to the Service Commission to that effect because of the revelation of this nature, which we refuse to adhere to because it's not proper. But then also the internal auditor, I personally asked him to authenticate his report and then send it to us so that we can act on. But I don't know whether he feared the action of the council, or he was being threatened, or his position was being threatened. He was afraid to actually do this. But he discussed this in my office. He came with somebody to bring, I said, I cannot act on your hearsay. You have to now, he has an internal audit that he has done in the council and brought it to the attention of the council. They refused to give their response, the queries. For the second time, he reminded them. For the third time, I said, for the third time, if we remind them, they don't act, confirm and then authenticate your report as the final report and then submit it. But I can understand his position when people are saying that you are not even qualified for that post, and you, in fact you should be demoted or dismissed. So this has gone round, and in fact there was a submission for us to forward to the Service Commission for the boy to be dismissed or demoted because he doesn't have qualification. But it's because he has raised these problems. So even though I must admit that some of the additional action that is been requested or expected by the ministry in terms of going for police report and other things has not been done by the ministry, but also the council is actually, taking these things and then trying to support the people doing the wrong against the people doing the right thing. So,
yes, thank you, PS. But you may agree with me that actually the buck stops at your office, given the fact that he has reported this matter 3 times, as you have indicated in your evidence. Don't you think it would have been your duty to take the appropriate action pursuant to what the law gives you as a supervisory institution?
Yes. That's why I said we have requested through the National Audit to substantiate some of these findings as our request to them, to find out some of these things, whether they are actually true. But he has not reported to me 3 times, but he said he has written to the management 3 times for them to respond to his queries, and they have not. So I advise him that if you have done that 3 times and they have not responded, so it's your duty to confirm, validate your report as it is, and then submit. Because now that your queries have not been acted on, you cannot leave it open-ended. But without you also validating your report, and as a final report, I cannot also act on it. But then we have also captured this, and then it was part of the things that we wanted National Audit to verify for us.
Thank you. Just to ask one question before I hand you over to Council, it is also your evidence that BCC also, without following due process, increased their emoluments. Is that your evidence?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So just to kind of conclude on the issue regarding the aggregated construction, you will see that apparently the contract was given, or the payments were made to the Director of Planning as impressed to one Katim Ture. I'm not sure whether you are aware of that.
Yes. And
Katim Ture, can you please clarify for the record whether he's a staff or a member of BCC?
He's the Director of Planning.
For BCC?
BCC, yes.
Very well. And so, what is your opinion in relation to that? The payments being made to Katim Ture as the Director of Planning at BCC. Should he be the one to kind of manage this construction?
His role as Director of Planning is to look at projects of council, cost them, and then tender them for due process to be followed. But then the money is not supposed to be paid to him as in passing to do any activity for council.
So paying him the money, in your opinion, was wrong?
Yes, beyond the limited impress limit for any staff of council to be given money beyond 50, 100,000 at maximum is as an impress is wrong.
And as well, you share the same opinion with the auditor who highlighted that the practice of paying contract amounts to staff of the council should be stopped immediately by management.
Exactly.
Yes, and this, of course, raises so many questions: conflict of interest, and as well, is corrupt practices perhaps. You may have influence over certain decisions, and you're part of management in one way or the other, and you're now having contracts to construct a certain structure.
Yes.
Yes. So again, what is your office, or what will be your office's response towards these fundamental issues being raised?
Yeah, that's what I said. We've started dealing with this matter by inviting the officer himself. I had a personal discussion with him concerning this problem. He did admit that he has been given this money to do that project. But then I also put to him that we heard that this project was being sponsored by the EU funding. But then we could not confirm that. That's why we subjected to the findings. In fact, as just concluded audit at the Basse Area Council by my internal auditor, I also informed the Internal Audit Directorate at a time that we will want the Internal Audit Unit to do an internal audit again to another council just for a comparison purpose, and also to look at some of the weaknesses, because the one in Basse was very comprehensive and has revealed a lot of issues, in fact, that were not captured in the previous audits. So I felt that I need to leverage on that by doing more of this on one urban council as well, just to draw comparison, and if possible, roll it out to all the councils and use it as a baseline for any finding of any nature, because that audit has gone far to detect. Maybe that matter will come, I don't know whether it's part of your questions, where in fact we've seen collectors, revenue collectors, collecting money and paying into the Director of Finance personal account. And the Director of Finance is using that money and loaning council and ask council to pay. You know, is this happening somewhere else? When we have detected this. These are the things that we want to collaborate. But then the commission has, since they have started the sitting, or when the commission was constituted, we asked them to hold on until this process is completed, then we proceed with that.
Yes, that is how serious these issues raised by the auditor, and which you are confirming are. Yes. And so I'm not sure how you will classify these malpractices or corrupt practices, if I may dare to say. But you can say they are of high risk to council and of course to the country as well. Will you agree with that?
Exactly.
And so you called the individual, Katin, the director of planning, to your office, and you discussed this issue. Did you take any formal steps to address this issue?
That's what, as I said earlier, I said these were some of the findings that we submitted to the national audit for collaboration, so that we can take the necessary step.
When you say collaboration, what do you mean? Can you elaborate more on what you mean by you've submitted to the national audit report for collaboration?
One of it is to find out whether the money spent on it and the money provided by the EU funding are the same money spent on the same project.
All right?
Yeah. One of it is to collaborate. That means the last money might not have been the money spent. It might be money used by somebody else. So we are not only looking at the project not being properly executed, but we are also looking at the possibility of that fund being a disguised fund going through that project, but not actually meant for that project.
Very well.
So those are the kind of things we were trying to work on to collaborate.
No, great points that you have raised, but this communication to the national audit, do you have them?
Yes, that was a request we made when when we received those queries. We sent them with documents to the national audit to look into.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Were these requests made formally?
Yeah, it was made formally.
Can you provide the commission with those records of correspondence to the national audit?
Okay.
But again, aside from the issues that you have raised in relation to your queries, there are other issues that are not disputed in relation to this particular issue. The issue that perhaps you can say a contract being awarded to the Director of Planning, who's of course a staff or a member of BCC, which you and I will agree that is wrong. The GPPA Procurement Act was not followed. The contract in itself, the execution of the contract was not anywhere near completion. And these are already proven evidence that you can act on that has already been clarified. The issue of conflict of interest being raised.
Yes.
So we will expect perhaps that you would have taken drastic action in relation to these issues.
As I said earlier, in this particular area, the ministry has not done well in terms of executing that oversight role in terms of taking the matter to the police or other things. We have not done that until recently. We started with Basse Area Council, and going forward, that will be the practice.
Good. I will also now move on to page 34, another very important issue that was being highlighted as well, with respect to the same subject, BCC. That there was procurement made at the tune of $39,850 for the purchase of 3,000 trash bins without adhering to the above GPPA Act. A single invoice was provided as evidence of supporting documents. Again, these are verbatim from the audit report. Is this to your knowledge at any time?
Exactly.
What is your reaction to that?
Yes, I think this is a similar situation, just like the construction, the money paid to Katim. In this case also, we were made to understand that the EU project purchased these bins, and also a contract was given to somebody to supply. However, a vendor at the time had problem with BCC and approached us for BCC not acting on her invoice to pay. So we said this particular process has not come through us. We didn't know that BCC has contracted you to produce these things. So in that case, we cannot urge BCC to pay you or not, because the actual process has not actually come through the ministry for approval. However, we could not also confirm whether these bins are also the same bins being purchased by the EU funding. So that was also an important thing to be confirmed.
Yes, again, my point is, who is it for? I mean, the responsibility to make sure that they establish that actually this is the position. Is it not what you're raising right now? Is it not for BCC to provide evidence that of their assertion, as opposed to you trying to struggle for evidence to confirm certain issues?
It's not a matter of struggling. If you know that...
No, I am trying to help you here. What I'm saying is, you are saying you cannot confirm.
Yes.
But you can only confirm if you have adequate information or adequate documentation to that effect. Is that not the case?
Yes.
So have they done that? Have they given you the required documentation or the required information to make sure you ascertain whether the right funding or the right expenditure or so on and so forth?
No, that one has not been sought. But then it's supposed to be our responsibility to verify that. And then we, at the time, try to find out through our own means, or not actually from the BCC, to find out whether these things were part of their EU project.
Very well. We will move again to other issues. I will not bore you with all the findings, because there are so many fraudulent misrepresentation of funds here and there, financial malpractice that has been highlighted in various area councils. And so we will spend the entire day here. But then the reason why I'm highlighting some of these key important or serious malpractice is to make sure that to know as well whether your institution, what you have done, whether it is to your knowledge, what you have done about it, and or what can be done about it. You understand? Another issue is the non-compliance of disposal procedure, where perhaps vehicles or certain material or item or equipment were perhaps marked as to be disposed of, but they did not follow the guidelines as per the financial manual. Are we aware of any?
Yes, these are like council assets,
Yes.
asset disposals. The contract committee or the disposal committee must be in place to look at these assets and then attach values for them, and then they will then put this on an auction or auction for people to compete, and then people will buy them knowing that the minimum price they are expecting. That is normally the disposal process. Or some of the assets can even be disposed by donating them to another institution or body that need it. But then it will be recorded as being transferred to that particular institution, and the value will also be noted.
Exactly, and this is the point. There is, of course, numerous instances wherein this had been the norm at BCC as well, and then we cannot over discuss the implication of that, the trying to undervalue perhaps the risk of undervaluing or perhaps overstating the risk of maybe fraudulent malpractice happening in relation to not following the guidelines as per the financial manual.
Exactly.
Yes, and the problem I keep on having is that all these issues are very, very serious issues which definitely, again, is a recipe for fraud, Honorable PS. These things should be addressed at the moment they are being discovered, either by your inspection team at any stage, or when the audit report highlights these issues, that actions must be taken. And I'm glad that you have agreed that in most of these instances, there were no actions being taken.
Exactly.
Again, there were spendings being made, expenditures being done, and then they do not conform with the budget. They were not budgeted for. The auditor highlighted these issues as well, like payments being made up to the tune of $200,000 to individuals when these issues were not also being budgeted for. What is your knowledge about that?
Yes, this has also been the instances where councils will spend outside their budget. However, during the budget execution, if an unexpected activity comes, council have laid down procedures to follow to make sure that this particular activity is captured, but then they have to know which of the other activities they're going to cancel, or whether they have, during the course of the year, an excess in terms of revenue. Based on their revenue projection, they have got an excess, and as such, that excess should be able to take care of this particular project. And this should go through a council approval process where a resolution will be passed, where the CEO will come to the council to explain that this is a project that is outside the budget. But then I have excess revenue from A, B, and C, which was not part of our revenue, or we have made revenue collection beyond our expectation. As such, the excess revenue is what I intend to use this. Though that one is a process, and if that is done, projects outside the budget can be executed. However, all the ones that have been flagged by the auditors are normally, they don't follow this process. They are just issues that come. The CEO sometimes, unofficially, you ask them, why are you doing this kind of spending? They say, no, the council forced it on us. But then we always say you cannot be dictated because you are going to be the person who is going to be answerable to these actions. And some of these things we've noticed them when they come in the audit report, or sometimes the inspectors will flag some of these things, and then we will call the council concerned to discuss on, and then for actions to be taken, and then those actions to be avoided.
Now, just to discuss how serious this issue is, for example, there were various payments being made. One was made in 2020 to Mwan Musa Jajo, Security Commissioner. He was paid $213,630 for commission on services. Another payment was made to Aja Fatu Nyang, Chief Cashier, in 2020.
Are we still on BCC?
Yes.
Okay.
And commission was paid to the tune of $2,000 on commission on services. Another was paid for about $40,000. Another one was paid Ajapatu Nyang, Chief Cashier, $138,166. And the reason for the payment was a commission on services. Now, this would be okay if you follow the right procedure and payments are being made lawfully and legally, for example. But if the auditor cannot, you'll agree with me, of course, cannot detect as to the reasons as to why payments are being made, for example, that raises a serious concern. And that is exactly the issue raised by the auditor. For example, there were no supporting documents presented to the auditor to kind of ascertain those payments. And he has highlighted that that the payment of these payments, for example, cannot be ascertained, that in the absence of supporting documents, there is the risk that the payment is not genuine at all. So various payments being made outside the budget and no proper detail or documentation being provided to support those payments. And even the auditor cannot ascertain where those payments are genuine. How serious do you think this is?
It is a way of people sometimes just rewarding other people on payments that are not attached to any sort of assignment. Because if it is allowances paid of that nature, I think we should be able to know what kind of service or what kind of assignment they were assigned to do that was accomplished to get that. Like in the government, you can pay to a staff an amount up to 30,000 for what we call special assignment, where you assign somebody on a special assignment, you can pay this amount. But then that would have been identified what kind of service, what kind of special assignment you've assigned the person to do. But in this case, we have not seen some of those assignments, and then we also don't know, apart from their routine work, what extra work they have done. So payment to them could only be seen as maybe helping to reward somebody, which is in itself a fraud.
Trust me, we can be here for the whole day discussing some of these very, very serious issues being raised by various audit reports. And again, maybe one or two or three before we go on for a break. We have unused softwares, wherein council will perhaps engage, pay for services and perhaps not use them. Maybe they don't need them. If the auditor has highlighted that clearly, that at page 61 of the same report, where it was highlighted that we found out 2 unused softwares, namely integrated HR and payroll software and QuickBooks accounting software. The City Council purchased these since 2019. And if you look at the details, payment was made in 2019 to QuickBooks, to BK Consulting to the tune of $221,000. Another payment was paid to Kube Jara for an integrated HR and payroll system, $235,000. But is it because they don't need these systems, or is it that it's another fraudulent scheme, or is it that it was just lack of proper adherence to rules and regulation as laid down? But then it has been highlighted. It is a high risk, as highlighted by the auditor, and the risk is that money wasted on purchasing these softwares could have been used to fund other activities beneficial to the public. I will say he's in fact being very nice. Is it an issue of awarding contracts to companies or individuals, knowing you don't need that particular service, but they're still paid for those services just to have benefit perhaps as well?
I would say the councils need all these services, but the checks and balance in these services, after realizing it, the councils don't want to use them because it has controls in your spending, transparency in the spending, and as such they were abandoned. Even the IFB system introduced in the councils is facing a similar resistance, because it will tell you where to spend based on your budget, within your budget. It will tell you how the process should go, because if not, it will not allow you to go. So these controls and the checks and transparency in those systems is what led to the abandoning of those systems.
Very well. Just to round up on these issues, the issue of loans. You have unpaid loans as well. Those loans given to staff that are no longer working for the area council, and they have not been recovered. You also have a loan paid to 2 women for the purpose of performing a Hajj or going to Mecca, basically. And I'm not sure whether it was budgeted for. It was never paid. I'm not sure whether you are aware of these instances that are happening at the council, where council can just decide to be giving loans here and there, back and forth, and there are no recovery procedures or guidelines or to be followed in relation to making sure that the finances of the area council, the finances of the country, in essence, is not being wasted.
Yes. We are aware of this, that at some point council give out loan and some people will start paying and they will stop. Sometimes they will not even pay at all, and these were flagged in the audit reports. Yes.
Now, again, lawyers will say, finally. Honorable PS, for most of these issues being raised by the auditor, and in fact, some of these issues, I believe, if your institution is performing a very effective inspection mechanism in relation to its oversight function, that most of these issues would have been detected earlier and perhaps dealt with adequately. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, so.
Now, what are the mechanisms in place now, since there are perhaps no robust mechanisms previously? What are the mechanisms in place now that you can tell us that are supposed to address some of these very serious malpractices or possible malpractices that are happening in the various area councils?
Yes, we have the enforcement. It's just a matter of enforcing what exists. That is, the audit report can be, the inspection reports as they come, if they have issues concerning some of these audit report, the inspectors can check and then confirm, and then the matters will be addressed if the management and the council as a body have not addressed the issue. And equally, the issue can be addressed through other means, like sending them for police for investigation and also possible arrest, and then recovery of some of those funds. This, going forward, is the approach of the ministry. That means we have to stick to enforcement. That is the basic underlying word.
Exactly, because just as simple as not having council meetings being recorded, for example, just as simple as that. It can look very simple, but not having an efficient clerk or having a clerk who record. Even I was even surprised in the even in BCC or and other area councils, wherein you don't even have minutes of sessions being recorded, and so on and so forth. These are very fundamental issues.
Exactly.
Yes, and again, thank you very much for your time. I will hand over to you to the chairperson. I'm sure we'll be good for a break, if any.
Thank you, Council. I would ask the commissioners if they have questions for clarification to proceed to do so. Okay, Mr. Joyner.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairperson. Do councils have manuals, financial manuals, administrative manuals,
yes,
as to how they should perform their duties?
Yes.
And the CEO, is he the custodian for some of these manuals, so that when things pop up, he or she will be able to make reference and do what is supposedly the right thing based on the manuals?
Yes.
Have these manuals been lodged, a copy been lodged to your ministry or at your ministry?
Yes.
Coming back to the financial bit of it, we have just had in evidence that some councils spend outside of the budget. And in cases where they are spending outside of the budget, it means authority must be given for that to happen. Or if you are taking from another budget line to another budget line, there must be a environment. Who authorizes those environment, or who authorizes those budgets to be spent?
Is the council as a body. That means if it is going to be environment, the council will identify the particular activity that they intend to do instead of another activity where they want to via from. And if it is a new activity that has not been budgeted, as I explained earlier, the CEO as the financial officer, vote controller, must be able to bring to the council meeting, one, the importance of the new activity as an emergency activity, that it should be taken care of. And two, where is this fund coming from to finance that particular activity? And once those are being provided, either, as I said earlier, this is going to be an excess revenue that he has already identified, or they're going to forego one or two other activities to be able to execute this activity. He should be able to put this agreement down to convince the council that this is what he intends to do, and he's taking the fund from here, and the fund is there already. It's going to be moved from here to there. Then once the council approves that, then that activity can now be executed as council becomes the authority to authorize them to do that.
I think this is the convenient point to stop for us to take our break, and we will resume at 2:30 after our lunch break. And I believe that we will continue on the evidence that you are giving, and hopefully we would conclude with you today, but we have a lot of lot of issues because if you look at the general powers of the councils, this is where I want you to come in and highlight, but we will release you today because we have other witness that we have scheduled for tomorrow. When we are done, we will call you because we want you to highlight more on what the ministry have done in assisting the councils in the execution of their general powers. Because these general powers, if you look at what is contained in the provisions, you will realize that the ministry should support these councils in the execution of their general powers. So that is what I want us to look at after the examination from the councils, for you to give more light and shed more light as to the responsibility of the ministry and where you have gone wrong in supporting these councils. Thank you so much. We can now rise.